What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Learning Financial Basics. My name's Scott, and I'm here to help you make and keep more of your money. This week, we're getting into the dark cloud that hovers around almost everyone's head. It's stress-inducing, it's terrifying, it's debt, and how to escape it. Let's get into it. We're a nation in debt. The average North American has over $7,000 in credit card debt, a non-mortgage debt of over $20,000, something like a car, and the average student loan this year hit over $40,000. Things have gotten so dire that a survey of 2019 done by BDO in Canada showed that 55% of Canadians are living paycheck to paycheck. That means that if one pay period is missed at work, they will literally be defaulting on loans. That stuff is terrifying. For a lot of people in debt, the reality of how much money they owe is simply too much to think about. So they don't think about it. They dig it down deep, put their head in the sand, and hope that the problem goes away. The thing with this approach is this allows the debt to rear its head at the absolute worst time. Maybe a surprise home repair like a furnace that needs replacement, or an illness in the family. Maybe a job loss surprisingly happens. This is all times when the debt will rear its head and there's not nearly as much that you can do about it. The best time to deal with debt is when you decide you no longer want to go paycheck to paycheck and you want to take control of your financial life. Let's do it. Now, everyone's financial situation is different, as is the various amounts of debt that they no doubt have acquired. And while we're talking about debt, it can be anything from mortgages, car payments, pet expenses, medical expenses, credit card debt for restaurants, takeouts, tech splurges, you name it. There's literally thousands of ways for people to get in debt. Now you may be saying, okay, Scott, I'm in debt. Everyone's in debt. How are you gonna get me out of this? You're gonna find a lot of videos out there that say, you're in debt? Have you considered trying to make more money? Now, this isn't bad advice. If you can pick up a part-time job, you can mow some lawns, try to sell candles on Etsy, get a side hustle, absolutely do that. But this video isn't talking about how to pick up a side hustle. It's talking about the number one tool at your disposal and understanding why you're on a wheel of debt and how to get off it. The number one weapon you have in your war on debt is the understanding that not all debt is created equally, and that interest rates are going to play a huge factor in just how long you stay on the wheel of debt. So that's the one similarity that everybody has when preparing to put together a debt repayment schedule. Everyone's dealing with interest rates, which are effectively just charges that you agreed to for the right to borrow the money from the lender in the first place. But the rates can vary widely. When you're talking about something like an agreed upon mortgage payment, they usually charge something like 3 to 5% annually, where your credit card company could be charging you as much as 30% a year. Now, I cannot exaggerate enough how important it is to track down the interest rates that you're paying and figure this out, because it is the single most important thing to try to get you off the debt cycle. All right, so the first step in coming to terms with how much money you owe is to grab an Excel workbook or a piece of paper and write down every single debt that you owe. You want to list the name of the individual or institution you owe the money to, the total dollar amount of the debt, the interest rate, and the length of time that you've agreed to pay it back in. Anything from 6 months, 12 months, 24, 56, 25 years, whatever it is, make sure that's all included in your list. So this should give you a pretty good bird's eye view of where your money should be going first. Next, I'm going to take you through a real world example of someone's finances and show just how important time and interest rates are in saving you a ton of money. For this example, we'll say that you have a mortgage, car payments, $7,000 of credit card debt, and about $12,000 of student debt remaining. Now that they're all listed, let's dive into the worst offender, the atrocious 18% credit card debt. To help me show the effect time and interest rates have on your debt cycle, I'm going to head to a great credit card debt calculator tool from the good folks at the Government of Canada. I'll drop the link on the screen here and in the description. This tool is great because it shows you 3 different outcomes for the same amount of starting debt. So let's switch this over to $7,000 as our starting point. Okay, now once I've filled in all the information here about 3 possible plans, we're given 3 different options that really show the difference interest rates play. All right, so once we get to the chart here, you start to really see the difference that interest rates and minimum balances will have on your time frame for getting out of debt. That same $7,000 credit card debt at option A, $210 a month, will take 3 years and 11 months to pay off. And that's because you're paying almost $2,800 in interest. That is a huge percentage when the amount of money you borrowed was $7,000. Option B, where you elect to pay $200 more every month than the minimum, so $410 a month on that same $7,000, it would only take you 1 year and 8 months to pay off the same amount of money because your interest would only be about $1,150. So you would have saved about $1,600 in interest or 2 years and 3 months of your life. Option C is if you want to pay a flat rate a month, say $500 goes to your credit. Now, if you were to pay $500 a month, it would only take you 1 year and 4 months to clear your $7,000 debt. That's because your interest would drop to only $916. That's $1,860 saved over option A, or 2 years and 7 months of your life. Now, I think this is the best way to really show the difference that minimum balances and interest rates make, because by not adhering to the minimum balance, you can literally save yourself 3 years of paying down debt. Seeing the staggering costs of just how much only paying minimum balance will cost you is really eye-opening. And you have to remember, these are things you've already bought. You're literally just figuring out how much more expensive they're going to be than the day you bought them. For comparison, let's move on to the outstanding $12,000 of student debt. I have another handy tool from the fine folks at Canada Corp, good old Government of Canada, that will help you break down exactly how much student loans are costing you. I'll put the link on the screen and leave it in the video description. So once we fill everything in, you can see that after 56 months of monthly payments of $240, you'll have paid only $1,389 in interest. Now, that's much lower than the $2,800 in interest you'll be paying on only $7,000 of credit card debt over a similar time period. It's only 10 months left. All right, so now that we've broken down just how much high interest rates will cost you, let's relist and reorder your debts by interest rates instead of total dollars. Now, this doesn't mean that you can just ignore the debts at the bottom of the list. You still have to make sure you're paying at least the minimum balance. But what this does is it shows where all your extra money should be going. You want to be attacking those high interest rate loans with as much money as you can. The goal is to eliminate all high interest debt until what remains is manageable, low interest debt that you can continue to pay while not being hit with very much interest at all. That's the name of the game. So just a quick disclaimer or warning before we move on. Some institutions have it in their agreements that there is actually a penalty if you pay back too much money above the agreed upon amount in a certain time period. For a conventional mortgage, they usually won't let you pay more than 10 to 15% more than the agreed upon amount per year. So read the fine print. It's not there for all debts, but you want to make sure you're not getting hit with a bill after the fact, which would hilariously put you further in debt. So that's a really quick look at what I feel is the #1 most important thing when planning your debt exit strategy. There is a ton of other strategies out there. One's called the snowball strategy, where you line up your debts from most owed to least owed, and you just try to knock out as many of the small debts as possible, because psychologically it'll make you feel good that you have fewer names on that list. That's one strategy. It's not one that I use, but it could work for a lot of people. And you'll find lots of columns and websites that will teach you how to get a side hustle or how to approach your boss about trying to get a raise. These are all great things and they're great advice. However, what you have to understand is that fundamentally, picking up a few hundred extra dollars or even a few thousand will not get you out of debt if you don't take care of the issue that is making your debt expand faster than you can pay it off. And high interest rates is the #1 reason that it is expanding. Now, if you only take away one thing from this video, I want to make sure it's this: deal with your debt sooner rather than later. The way interest rates work are they ensure that your debt is only going to get worse with time. Now, credit card companies and banks and other lending institutions are so much more likely to actually lower interest rate and try to work with a client who has good credit and a solid history of repayment. If you wait until collection agencies come knocking at your door, it's going to be a lot harder to try to negotiate. So the #1 thing you can do is get started now. Put down whatever extra money you have and try to get those high interest debts lower soon. I hope this video really got you thinking about how debt works and showed you that the interest rates are really what keeps you on the cycle of debt that seems to never end. If you liked today's video, make sure to like and subscribe, hit the little bell, and make sure that you drop any questions or comments in the section below. Maybe you have other strategies for getting out of debt. I'd love to hear them. I put out weekly videos to help you learn about financial basics, and my goal is really just to make sure that everyone's doing the best they can with what they have. All right, see you guys next time.